Hey class, happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Hopefully you had some time to yourself, spend time with your family. Either way, hopefully you're off to a great start. We're in week 3. This is an important time. We're getting close to the midway point, which will be next week. You start figuring out the class, sort of getting a feel for feedback, how the grades go, and all the work that's included. And I commend you for going the extra mile, doing the discussions, and putting together the papers and the blogs. You're doing a fine job at that, and I remain highly impressed with the work you're doing. So congratulations. Thank you for all the hard work. I am impressed with your work. Hopefully you've used the feedback that I gave you in the assignments thus far, and you can use that in the future as you develop your discussions, your blogs, as well as your written assignments. Now, use that feedback that I gave you. If you didn't earn 100% on an assignment, don't just take that grade. I want you to take the feedback that I gave you, the suggestions and tips, and revise and resubmit your work. Let me take another look at it. Let me give you some more points, and I'll gladly change your grade as applicable. What that means is if you just resubmit the same thing, obviously your grade's not going to change. But if you do try to revise, do the best you can. Give it 100%. Give it 110%. And go back and revise and resubmit that. I'll take a look and we'll make some changes to your grade. Because as I mentioned let me readjust my camera here. As I've mentioned before, in the feedback and in the discussions, in the announcements, the whole goal here is to help you, to teach you, to mentor, to help you learn, not simply just for you to submit an assignment and just go with the grade that I gave you. You get to revise and you get to resubmit, and I encourage you to do that. Some programs don't allow you to do that. We do that here, and the reason for that is it helps you to learn, and it helps you go back and use the information, those key points and tips that you have available to you. You can learn from those and move forward. Keep moving forward, not just focus on that grade. So you started with an A, and you can keep that A, and giving you a second opportunity to do so. So please do that. If you haven't done it, I want you to go back. Now you can get those to me anytime before the class is over. You don't have to do it this week. You can use the information I give you, some of those tips and all the things that we learned from the material as well as APA, and you can go back and revise those and get them to me as you get time. So please do that. Let's take a look at the week 3, if you don't mind. We'll take a look at that real quick here. What are we doing this week? This week we're going to really take a look at crime. We're going to define crime, have a basic understanding of how local, state, and federal governments are involved with defining crime, what they do, what they're responsible for. As you know, crimes are different at each level. Local government, the state government, and the federal government are all responsible for different crimes. Now, obviously, at the federal level, there's some crimes that they have control over, that they can investigate and they can prosecute almost any crime. But the Constitution really assigns health and welfare, wellness, that daily health safety to the states, and then the states give that to the local governments, where it's a county, a municipality, a township, borough, etc. Some states don't have, like Connecticut, our definition of counties in Arkansas are different than what they have in Connecticut. And then you have some metropolitan areas who have a combined government. So it's a little bit different. I want you to take a look at all 3 of those. We'll illustrate the role of the different levels of government in defining crime. In the announcement, I gave you an example of that. I want you to use it, such as local, state, and federal, whether it's a traffic ticket or murder, anything like that. And then, of course, interstate commerce, taxation at the federal level. And then the federal government actually has some provisions that are a little bit from state, local government. So it doesn't have to be a big assignment, a big thing that you submit. I'd like for you to do a PowerPoint. Now, in those PowerPoints, if you do them, don't put 40,000 things on one slide. Just because the assignment says just one page or one PowerPoint or something to that effect, it's okay. I don't care if you give me 20. I want you to make sure that it's good, it's readable, the background looks good, and that you use some 12-point Times New Roman font. Try to stick with that, and so that you get a good, get accustomed to using that on your papers, etc. as we do with APA. So make sure that you do that. Just expand that. Don't try to put it all on one PowerPoint or one page because it makes it difficult to read. I want to be able to read it. I want to be able to get some information there that we can use. I kind of understand what you're doing, and make sure that you understand this. I'm at local, state, and federal, the definitions of crime. We will differentiate between unethical behavior and crime. Remember, there's a little bit of difference there between what's legal and what's ethical. And then analyze a case from a ethical and legal viewpoint. So make sure you take a look at that. Look at that overview real good. Make sure that you read that overview where we define crime. Make sure you get a good understanding of that. Again, there's different crimes that are different levels. There's things that are not illegal, but they certainly are unethical. We talked about that in the Bayless case. And I give you some more examples in the overview. So make sure you take a look at that overview. We define there is a difference between displaying unethical behavior and committing a crime. Just because someone does something that's unethical doesn't make it illegal. Sometimes things are the way around. Typically in the United States, we consider things that are illegal to be unethical. But I want you to think about that. I want you to understand what's inside the box. Reading the material, reading the overview, reading the rubric, reading the instructions, and then think outside the box. And you don't always have to agree. I want you to disagree sometimes with what we are saying. A little bit different. We're going back to in the textbook. The textbook is different. It's a different edition. So we're doing the same thing we did last week. Looking at criminal law today. We're looking at chapter 39. We're looking at pages. I posted these last week, so that's all the same. Same thing. We're going to continue with the information that we used last week. Make sure that you read over the textbook. It's not real large. It's not a big textbook. So I'd encourage you to take a look. And this actually says chapter 39, but it's really not. It's chapters 3 and 9 is what it is, and that's incorrect. And I'll try to make sure that I'll change that up for you in the module. So look at chapters 3 and 9 and make sure that you have a good overview of those as well. And then when we look at chapters, let's see, page 102, which is chapter 4. And here we discuss criminal conspiracy, some of the different requirements of the law, some things that are illegal, unethical, and then take a look at page 125 there in the textbook. And that's where we start chapter 5 at in the older textbook, and that's where we really look at whose justification of defenses. So make sure you have a good understanding those. Again, it's not a real big book. Lots of good information in here. It's pretty basic. A lot of it you're going to know. Some of it's going to give you some real good tips. But I do want you to take a look at that textbook. I have the electronic edition as well as the printed edition. So if you get confused, let me know, and we'll take a look, and I'll make sure that it helps you. A couple articles for us to look at. Here, what's ethical isn't always what's legal isn't always ethical. And then the Bayless case again, nurse refuses to give CPR. So we have a discussion announcement this week. We have a discussion due this week. And then take a look at your blogs. If you're not caught up on your blogs, make sure you do that. Now this week, it's pretty interesting because in week 3, I mentioned the Bayless case earlier. It's a different assignment. I really want you to think about this. 99% of the students in previous classes agree that she did something unethical but not illegal. In some cases, we've had police officers really share their point of view. So if you're a law enforcement officer and you work in this, you work in healthcare, please make sure you share your point of view on this about whether or not you think it's unethical, illegal, etc. The thing to keep in mind in this case is it was a nurse who was working as an administrator. So because she's a nurse and now she's working as an administrator, do we really hold her accountable? she required to automatically revert back to being a nurse from an administrator and give CPR to this person. We have an elderly person. The family have said, look, we don't want anything done. They told the long-term care facility that this, or in this particular case, it's more about not even a long-term care facility per se. It's not a nursing home that we would think of, but this is really just almost like condominiums, a retirement home, a place for the retired, and for them to live, just like us renting a house or something to that effect. So she really just lives there on her own. They come check on her occasionally, make sure she's got food, etc., and that's pretty much all they do. So is this one of those circumstances that no matter what the agreement is, no matter where she's living at, we find this lady's unresponsible when we should be doing CPR? Now, I can tell you 2 points of view on this. For me, I'm a CPR instructor with American Heart, and having been an EMT for nearly 25 years, I think about this, and I think about the person that I would find on the street. Now, if I find a person on the street, obviously I'm going to check them until I see a do not resuscitate order. Then I'm going to perform CPR, make sure the ambulance is on the way where they can do advanced life-saving care for this patient, even though she's elderly. The other side of that is, I know from working in EMS and going into nursing home, long-term care facilities, rehabilitation centers, and then places like this where where the elderly live. This is almost common every day. I'm not saying it's right, but it's pretty common every day to get these kind of calls. When a person falls, it may be the security officer. In this case, it's a nurse who found her. And they pretty much not are permitted under their licensing from the state to perform any care. And they don't have to. They don't have to do CPR. They don't have to do anything. All they do is call 911, follow what the emergency medical dispatcher says, and then wait for the ambulance. That's really all they have to do. But is that right? Is it ethical? Do we have a problem here with the nurse? Do we have a problem with the family? Do we have a problem with the state in the way that this facility is licensed? Or do we not hold the nurse accountable whatsoever, and we take a look at the rules, policies, and procedures that this facility has, processes they have? Are they, the company, are they responsible? Are they the ones that should be held responsible for this legally? Keep in mind, there's no civil suit here. It would potentially be a civil suit if it's not in a contract. But in this case, the family said, we're okay with everything that went on. It was a big blown out thing, and we're not suing anybody. But that's something you might think about, is whether or not there should be a civil suit involved in this particular situation, whether or not we should be able to sue this facility because they didn't provide any care and they don't allow the staff to provide any care whatsoever. So just make sure you take a look at that, read those articles, and then share your discussion. Last week we had milestone 2. We still have a little bit of work to do on that. If you haven't done your milestones, haven't looked at the final project, make sure you take a look at that if you don't mind. And then, of course, if you have any questions, just let me know. And we have our discussion this week, and then, as I mentioned, we started our milestone 2 project. You turned that in last week. So appreciate you doing all the hard work there. You did a good job with the discussions and with the various assignments. So keep up the good work there. On the blog, let's talk about the blog just a moment. Those blogs count for a lot of your grade. They're weighted. It's pretty heavily on your grade. So make sure that if you have not done your blog, I want you to do your blog. Make sure that you do that, and make sure that you turn in your blog assignments. Don't just give me a couple of sentences. Make sure that you give me Give me some good information in those blogs. They should be about like the discussions. They should be pretty detailed, and make sure you include that in there if you don't mind. And I will give you some good feedback to help you do that. So just make sure that we get that information in those blogs, and you do a good job of posting the blog. So check your spelling, make sure you check your APA, use those examples that I've shared for you in the announcement, use the links, use the feedback that I've given you, and you should be good. Now, going back to discussion in Module 3, these tend to be long. Most people really share their thoughts about this. So there's two thoughts in my mind about this. I don't want you just to put your emotion into it, but I really want you to use your research that you can find in the library, and make sure that you have some real good information to share. You pull that out of the library if you don't mind. And on the Bayless case, so just don't just take the information that you know that you feel or whatever your emotions are. Many of you may have had this happen before, and so don't just do that. Don't just take the information that you have and that you bring from your emotions, from things that have happened before. Just make sure that you have used some really good research as we go forward. So anyway, two things this week. You have your discussion and your defining crime assignment. Use that announcement that I gave you. Let me know if you have any questions. Send me an email. Put it in the general questions in the discussion board. Don't forget to look at those rubrics as well as the instructions for assignments. Make sure you develop your discussions as well as your defining crime assignment based upon those rubrics and instructions. And then let me know if you have any questions. I encourage you to go back and look at discussion 2. I stay a little bit behind sometimes. I will often go back and look at those discussions from last week, make sure I haven't overlooked responding to something that you posted, and try to answer any questions that you may have there. I want to make sure I responded to you there. So anyway, it's 20 minutes almost. That's a lot of time. Normally I do about 8 to 10 minutes on these. Thank you for taking your time to watch. If you have any questions, give me a call. I'm always here for you. I have my contact information in the announcements. Keep up the great work, and I'm proud of you. Always remember that. Have a great week.